The mysterious letter that arrived at Obinna and Adaobi's doorstep lingered in their minds. Every word seemed etched in menace. Your story is far from over. At first, Obinna tried to dismiss it. Perhaps it was a prank or a disgruntled neighbor who disliked their newfound success. But Adaobi could not shake the unease. She was no stranger to life's twists and turns, but this felt different. It felt personal. Do you think it is one of those people from your past trying to stir up trouble? Adaobi asked as they sat by the fire in their modest home. Obinna sighed, staring into the flames. I do not know. I have wronged many people. Maybe someone thinks I deserve punishment. That night, Obinna dreamed of his childhood, back in the village of UCHE. He saw himself running through the dusty streets, children mocking him as they shouted, "Big head, big head." The laughter echoed in his ears, louder and more haunting than ever. But then the dream shifted. He saw himself as a man, powerful, respected, and wealthy. Yet in the shadows, a figure watched him, waiting. When he woke, sweat soaked his shirt. He glanced at Adaobi, peacefully asleep beside him, and whispered, "I will not let my past ruin what we have built." Determined to protect their peace, Obinna decided to investigate the letter. He contacted an old friend, Ifeanyi, who had a knack for uncovering secrets. Ifeanyi lived in a nearby city and agreed to visit Obinna, but not before warning him. Sometimes digging too deep can unearth things better left buried. A week later, Ifeanyi arrived. He was a wiry man with sharp eyes that seemed to miss nothing. Obinna explained everything, from his rise as the big-headed billionaire to the scandal that followed and the mysterious letter. "This is not random," Ifeanyi said after reading the note. "Someone is watching you, Obinna, and they want you to know it." They decided to retrace Obinna's steps, starting from the village of UCHE. Adaobi was reluctant to let him go, fearing the pain it might bring. "You have already left that life behind," she said. "Why go back?" "I need answers, Ada," he replied. "For us." When they arrived in UCHE, the village seemed frozen in time. The dusty roads, the chatter of traders in the market, and the smell of roasted corn brought a flood of memories. Some villagers recognized Obinna, whispering as he passed. "That is the one with the big head," an old woman muttered to her companion. "Did he not become a big man in the city?" Obinna ignored the murmurs and went straight to the home of his childhood friend Nkem, who had stayed in the village all these years. Nkem welcomed him with open arms, but seemed nervous when Obinna mentioned the letter. "You think someone here might be behind it?" Nkem asked, scratching his head. "The people here talk, yes, but they do not have the means to send a letter like that. Have you considered that it might be someone from Lagos?" The conversation was interrupted by a loud commotion outside. A man dressed in tattered clothes and a mask stood in the middle of the market, shouting, "You think you can run from the past, Obinna, but it will find you. The spirits of UCHE do not forget." The villagers gasped and Obinna froze. The man fled before anyone could stop him. The market incident sent shockwaves through the village. Rumors of a curse spread like wildfire. Some said the spirits of UCHE were punishing Obinna for abandoning his roots, while others believed it was a jealous rival trying to tarnish his name. Obinna, however, could not ignore the man's words. The mention of the spirits of UCHE dredged up a long-forgotten memory. As a child, he had stumbled upon a sacred grove in the forest, a place forbidden to outsiders. He remembered hearing whispers that the grove held the secrets of the village's ancestors. "Ifeanyi, we need to go to the forest," Obinna said that evening. "The forest?" Ifeanyi's eyebrows shot up. "You cannot be serious. That place is dangerous." But Obinna was determined. With Nkem's reluctant guidance, they ventured into the forest under the cover of darkness. The air grew colder as they went deeper, and the silence was broken only by the crunch of leaves beneath their feet. Finally, they reached the grove. It was exactly as Obinna remembered, ancient trees intertwined like guardians of a secret. In the center stood a small shrine adorned with symbols and offerings. As they approached, a voice echoed through the clearing. "You should not have returned." Startled, they turned to see an elderly man emerging from the shadows. His eyes were milky with age, but his presence was commanding. "I am the keeper of this grove," he said, "and you, Obinna, have trespassed against the spirits." Obinna tried to explain, but the keeper raised a hand. "Silence! Your actions have angered the ancestors. The letter was their warning. If you do not make amends, the consequences will be dire. What amends? Obinna asked, his voice trembling. The keeper pointed to the shrine. You must uncover the truth buried here. Only then can you make things right. Before they could question him further, the keeper disappeared into the shadows, leaving them alone in the eerie grove. As Obinna and his companions examined the shrine, they found a small box buried beneath the offerings. Inside was a piece of cloth embroidered with an unfamiliar symbol and a letter written in a language Obinna could not understand. What now? Ifeanyi asked, his voice barely above a whisper. We find someone who can read this, Obinna replied, and we pray it leads us to the answers we need. The journey to uncover the truth had only just begun, and Obinna knew it would take him to places he never imagined and force him to confront demons he thought he had left behind. Back in the village, Obinna, Ifeanyi, and Nkem examined the strange piece of cloth and the letter they found in the shrine. The symbol embroidered on the cloth seemed ancient, resembling a swirling sun with jagged edges. The letter, however, was even more perplexing. Written in an old language that none of them recognized, it seemed to pulsate with a strange energy, as though the words held more than just meaning. I have seen this symbol before, Nkem said hesitantly. His voice was barely audible, his eyes fixed on the cloth. Where? Obinna pressed, desperate for answers. Nkem hesitated before responding. There is an elder in the neighboring village of Azuike. They call him Baba Ojoro. He is eccentric, but if anyone can interpret this, it is him. The mention of Baba Ojoro made Ifeanyi uneasy. That man is dangerous. They say he communes with spirits and practices dark magic. Obinna, however, was resolute. If he has the answers, then we have no choice. The next day, they set out for Azuike. The journey was treacherous, with narrow paths winding through thick forests and rivers swollen from recent rains. The village of Azuike itself was shrouded in mystery, its outskirts marked by strange totems carved from wood and bone. When they finally arrived at Baba Ojoro's hut, they were greeted by the faint smell of herbs and the sound of drums echoing in the distance. The elder sat cross-legged outside his home, his piercing eyes seemingly seeing right through them. You seek answers, Baba Ojoro said before they could even speak. His voice was deep and raspy, like the rumble of a distant storm. Obinna presented the cloth and the letter. Baba Ojoro studied them carefully, his expression unreadable. Finally, he spoke. This symbol belongs to the UCHE Oracle, a secret society that once ruled your village from the shadows. They were guardians of great power, but their ways were corrupt. The letter is written in the ancient tongue of the ancestors, and it speaks of a curse tied to your family. Obinna's heart sank. A curse? What kind of curse? Baba Ojoro leaned closer, his voice barely above a whisper. Your family betrayed the oracle generations ago. The curse ensures that no matter how high you rise, the weight of shame will always pull you down. This big head of yours is no coincidence. It is a mark of the oracle's wrath. The revelation left Obinna reeling. All his life, he had thought his struggles were his alone to bear. Now he realized they were part of something much larger. Can the curse be broken? He asked, his voice trembling. Baba Ojoro nodded. Yes, but it will not be easy. You must uncover the full truth of your family's betrayal and face the oracle's judgment. Only then will the curse be lifted. The journey back to UCHE was silent. Each man was lost in his thoughts, the weight of Baba Ojoro's words hanging heavily over them. Obinna could not shake the feeling that he was being watched. The shadows seemed darker, the air heavier, and every rustle of leaves made his heart race. When they reached the village, they found Adaobi waiting for them, her face pale with worry. Something strange happened while you were gone, she said. She led them to the backyard, where a strange symbol identical to the one on the cloth had been drawn in ash. Beneath it lay a dead bird, its eyes eerily open. What does this mean? Adaobi asked, fear evident in her voice. It is a warning, Ifeanyi said grimly. They are watching us. That night, Obinna struggled to sleep. His dreams were filled with visions of the oracle, a shadowy council shrouded in darkness. He saw his ancestors pleading before them, begging for mercy, only to be cast out and marked with the curse. When he awoke, he knew what he had to do. The only way to uncover the full truth was to confront the elders of UCHE. They were the keepers of the village history and the only ones who might know the oracle's secrets. The next day, Obinna stood before the elders in the village square. The air was thick with tension as he told them everything about the letter, the shrine, and Baba Ojoro's revelations. The elders exchanged uneasy glances before the oldest among them, a frail man named Pa Okeke, spoke. The oracle was real, he admitted, but it is a story we do not speak of. Those were dark times, and we believe the past was buried. Pa Okeke went on to reveal that Obinna's great-grandfather had been a member of the oracle. He had betrayed them by stealing a sacred artifact, a golden mask said to hold immense power. In retaliation, the oracle cursed his bloodline, ensuring that his descendants would always bear the weight of his betrayal. The mask is the key, Pa Okeke said. If you can return it to the oracle, they may lift the curse. But be warned, the mask is hidden in a place where few dare to venture. The elders directed Obinna to the Forbidden Caverns, a treacherous series of tunnels located deep in the hills outside UCHE. According to legend, the caverns were guarded by spirits that could drive a man mad. Obinna, Ifeanyi, and Kim prepared for the journey, gathering supplies and weapons to defend themselves. Adaobi insisted on joining them, unwilling to let Obinna face the dangers alone. The entrance to the caverns was marked by jagged rocks and a chill that seemed to seep into their bones. As they stepped inside, the darkness swallowed them, and the only light came from the flickering torches they carried. The air grew colder as they ventured deeper, and strange noises echoed through the tunnels. At one point, they came across a pile of bones, a grim reminder of those who had attempted the journey before them. "Are you sure this is worth it?" Ifeanyi asked, his voice trembling. "It has to be," Obinna replied. "There is no turning back now." As they pressed on, they encountered a series of traps, hidden pits, swinging blades, and walls that seemed to close in on them. Each challenge tested their courage and resourcefulness, but they managed to overcome them, their determination unwavering. Finally, they reached a massive chamber at the heart of the caverns. In the center stood a pedestal, and atop it rested the golden mask. The mask seemed to glow with an otherworldly light, its surface adorned with intricate carvings that seemed to shift and move. Obinna approached the pedestal cautiously, his heart pounding. As he reached for the mask, a voice boomed through the chamber. "Who dares disturb the oracle?" The air grew thick with energy, and the shadows around them began to take shape, forming figures that seemed to watch their every move. "Stand firm," Obinna shouted, his voice steady despite the fear coursing through him. "We are here to right the wrongs of the past." As the figures closed in, Obinna grabbed the mask, and the chamber was flooded with light. For a moment, everything was still. Then the ground beneath them began to shake, and the walls of the chamber started to collapse. "Run!" Ifeanyi shouted, and they sprinted back through the tunnels, the sound of crumbling rock and roaring spirits echoing behind them. Emerging from the forbidden caverns, the group collapsed onto the grassy hillside, gasping for air. Obinna clutched the golden mask tightly in his hands, its weight more than just physical. It was a symbol of his family's sins and his hopes for redemption. The village of UCHE welcomed them with a mix of fear and curiosity. The elders were already waiting in the square, their faces pale as they beheld the mask. "You have done what no one else dared to do," Pa Okeke said, his voice trembling. "But the final step remains. You must return the mask to the oracle's shrine and face their judgment." Obinna nodded. Deep down he knew this was his destiny, yet fear gnawed at him. What if the oracle deemed his family's betrayal unforgivable? That night, Obinna prepared for the journey to the shrine. He placed the golden mask in a cloth bag and tied it securely. Adaobi, ever supportive, insisted on accompanying him. "This is your fight, Obinna, but you don't have to face it alone," she said firmly. The next morning, they set off for the shrine. The path was eerily quiet, the usual sounds of the forest replaced by an unsettling silence. When they reached the shrine, they found it transformed. The once crumbling structure now stood tall and imposing, its walls glowing faintly with an otherworldly light. As they stepped inside, the air grew heavy. The golden mask seemed to vibrate in Obinna's hands, as if it were alive. "Place the mask on the altar," a voice commanded. Obinna hesitated but obeyed, placing the mask on a stone pedestal at the center of the shrine. The ground trembled, and a blinding light filled the room. When it faded, a group of shadowy figures stood before them, the oracle. "You seek to undo the curse," one of the figures said, their voice echoing like thunder. "Yes," Obinna replied, his voice steady. "I wish to atone for my family's sins." The oracle remained silent for a moment before another figure spoke. "The curse is not easily broken. A price must be paid." The oracle's words sent a chill through Obinna. He had come prepared to face the consequences, but the uncertainty of what they might demand was overwhelming. "What is the price?" he asked, his voice barely audible. The oracle gestured toward Adaobi. "The curse was born from betrayal, and only through sacrifice can it be lifted. One who loves you unconditionally must willingly give up their life for yours." The words struck like a dagger. Adaobi's face paled, but she did not flinch. "I will do it," she said without hesitation. "No," Obinna shouted, his heart breaking. "There must be another way." The oracle remained unmoved. "This is the only way to erase the stain of betrayal." Adaobi stepped forward, her eyes filled with determination. "Obinna, your pain is my pain. If my sacrifice will free you from this curse, then so be it." Before Obinna could protest further, Adaobi placed her hands on the golden mask. A blinding light enveloped her, and when it faded, she was gone. The mask shattered into pieces, dust, and the shadowy figures of the oracle dissolved. Obinna fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. Adaobi's sacrifice had lifted the curse, but at an unimaginable cost. The aftermath of Adaobi's sacrifice left Obinna in a state of despair. He returned to UCHE carrying the shattered remains of the golden mask, his heart heavy with grief. The villagers, however, greeted him with awe and reverence. The curse that had plagued his family for generations was gone, and with it, the mark of shame that had defined his life. "You have saved us all," Paokeke said, his voice filled with emotion. "The oracle's wrath no longer looms over our village." But for Obinna, the victory felt hollow. Adaobi's absence was a constant ache, a reminder of the price he had paid. He retreated to the outskirts of the village where he lived in solitude, tending to a small farm and reflecting on the events that had changed his life. As the months passed, something remarkable began to happen. The village of UCHE, once divided by fear and superstition, began to thrive. The people united, inspired by Obinna's bravery and Adaobi's sacrifice. Obinna became a symbol of hope, and though he shunned the spotlight, the villagers often sought his counsel. Slowly, he began to heal, finding solace in the knowledge that Adaobi's sacrifice had not been in vain. Years later, Obinna sat beneath a large baobab tree, its branches providing shade from the afternoon sun. He had aged, his once youthful features now lined with wisdom and experience. A group of children gathered around him, their faces filled with curiosity. "Tell us the story of the golden mask," one of them begged. Obinna smiled, his heart warming at their innocence. He told them the tale, leaving out the darker details, but emphasizing the lessons of courage, sacrifice, and redemption. As he finished, a young girl approached him, her eyes bright and inquisitive. She reminded him of Adaobi in her youth, and for a moment, he felt her presence. "Will you ever find Adaobi again?" the girl asked. Obinna's smile grew wistful. "She is always with me," he said, placing a hand over his heart, "and one day when my journey here is done, we'll be together again." The children ran off, laughing and playing beneath the baobab tree. Obinna watched them, his heart at peace. The curse that had haunted his family was gone, and the village of UCHE was stronger than ever. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Obinna whispered a silent prayer of gratitude to the oracle, to his ancestors, and most of all, to Adaobi, whose love and sacrifice had changed everything. The baobab tree stood tall and unwavering, a symbol of the strength and resilience that defined Obinna's journey. Though his story was one of pain and loss, it was also one of hope, a legacy that would endure for generations to come.